probably the first time I got on the tractor and drove it. Yeah, I was probably about 12 years old, and I always followed Dad around, climb on the tractors and ride with him. And one day he said, climb up on the seat, let's see what you can do. So I did, and I drove it around a little while, and been doing that ever since. I guess probably the first time I met Lois.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. First thing that pops into my mind. Anyway.
Yeah. I know it's hard when you got 9 grandchildren and 3 kids to compete with that moment.
Well, our cruises too, you know.
Yeah.
With the whole family, those were really special, and I still think about them a lot. And that's right on top, right up the top, near the top.
Yeah.
Let's see, what could that be? Tractor pulling.
Tractor pulling. Okay.
Used to like tennis real
Yeah.
well. When I was in college, I learned tennis, and then I played a lot. I was pretty good at it for a while. But,
Was that because of Grandma, or was that...
No, I taught her.
You taught Grandma tennis?
Yeah. And she passed me big time.
Yeah, I never do that.
Because she kept, I learned in college, and she didn't play then, and I don't know, I don't think we ever played until after we were married together. And then she got interested in it, and boy, she took it serious. And when we moved down here, I got away from it because there wasn't anywhere to play, but she would drive to Lancaster places every week.
What was it like growing up with 5 to 6 siblings?
Crowded. Well, it was good in that we lived out in the country, so we had a lot of, there weren't a lot of neighbors around, so having several brothers and sisters, you had somebody to play with and so on, so that was kind of fun. There was always somebody around to play with, so yeah.
Are you glad you went to college to become an engineer and not stay home to farm?
Yes. I liked farming, and kind of my dad kind of talked my brother and I out of it, because he said you work so hard and you get so little out of it. Financially it's hard to get by, and so yes, I was glad. And it's kind of funny because when I graduated high school, my dad set me down and he said, what do you plan to do now that you get out of high school? Well, my brother had gone off to the Air Force, and I didn't think I really wanted to go into service at that point. And I said, I don't know, I kind of like maybe being a mechanic, because I like to work on the tractors and cars and stuff. And he said, well, instead of a mechanic, why don't you become a mechanical engineer? He said, that'll probably be able to get a real good job that way. And he said, and you won't be getting grease and dirt under your fingernails all the time. So I thought, gee, that sounds pretty good. So we checked out, and Ohio University had a branch down in Zanesville, and he took me down there, and we talked to him, and I signed up. And it turned out to be the best thing I did. I really liked the work, had a good living at it, and so forth. So yes, I don't regret not staying with the farm. Well, Lois and I had talked about, we traveled a lot, as you well know. We had talked about going to Italy and maybe part of France and see that. We never got to do that. And I would like to have hit a few more of the national parks, like Glacier National Park in Montana, and a couple of those, but really nothing too big, because I'm satisfied that I got to do all the things I wanted to do. I always said I don't want to be sitting in this chair when I'm 80 years old saying I wish I did that and I wish I did this, and I don't. I'm happy with my life the way it's been and things I've done. So that'd be the only thing probably, is the tour around Italy, but it's not a big deal. Any regrets? Gosh, I can't think of one. I really can't think of any regrets.
I hope to be in your boat.
Not getting rheumatic fever when I was in the 6th grade because it took me out of sports. I wasn't allowed to play any sports in high school. And I liked basketball, and I thought I could be a decent basketball player, but I wasn't allowed to play. I never could do it, and it was because I had rheumatic fever as a child. I think I was in the 5th or 6th grade when I got it. And I was sick for about 6 weeks and so forth. So I wish that hadn't happened. I think I'd have got to do a few more things then that I wanted to do.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe that's a regret. I should have made.
Maybe.
I think Italy,
Yeah.
as I mentioned earlier. Gosh, we've been to so many places. Yeah, Italy, and it's not a big deal, but
Yeah.
that's probably the one place I'd like to see that I didn't get to see. Steak, baked potatoes.
Yeah, that's a good meal.
I pray for health for all my children and grandchildren and myself, and that I always ask St. Joseph to take good care and guide and protect my grandchildren. I think I do that every day. So,
I appreciate it.
and I pray to Lois that she'll help me make it up there to see her again one day. I would say my wedding day, but I had a bad toothache that day, so that probably wasn't it. But oh gosh, the best day I ever had. I don't think I can pick one day. It was my wedding day and the birth of my children and my grandchildren. That's a few days, but the worst day I ever had. Well, the worst day is really pretty obvious. It was the day Lois passed away right here in the chair next to me. And I had to perform CPR on her and try to save her. And wasn't able to do it. That was definitely my worst day. I would say when I graduated college, I was the first person in my family, either on my dad and my mom's side, first one of the children to graduate college. And well, none of the adults had ever graduated college either, so I was the first one in there. And that day, Lois, we were married. Lois went down, my brother and his wife, Deanne, and my mom and dad went down to Athens for the graduation. I was pretty proud of that.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, that's an easy one. My name is Theodore Richard Williams. If I could change it, I would change it to Richard Theodore Williams, which is what it was supposed to be originally. But it caused me a lot of problems because we thought it was Richard Theodore, and that's why I was always called Dick, in short for Richard. And as I went through school and everything, it was Richard T. Williams. My draft card was that way. My driver's license was that way. When I went to work for Western Electric, when I was about 21, 22 years old, they wanted to see a birth certificate. And I didn't have one, so I called Dad. I was living up there then, Reynoldsburg. I called Dad. He said, I don't have one, but I'll go down to the courthouse and get one. So he went down and got it, and it said Theodore Richard Williams. And it was because at that time, when I was born at home, you had to go to the courthouse and fill out the papers. And my aunt said she would take care of that for them. And because my dad's first name was Theodore, she assumed that's what they wanted me to be. So she put it in as Theodore Richard. Well, when I went to work at Western Electric, and I told them, I said, it says Theodore Richard, but it really should be Richard T. And they said, no, your name is Theodore Richard, and that's the way your paychecks will be and everything else. So I should have gone to court and had it changed, but instead I did. I changed everything back. I had to change my draft card, my driver's license. I was halfway through college. I had to change all that. And so if I had it to do over again, or if I had, it would be Richard T. Williams and not T.
Okay.
Richard. Oh, boy. I think maybe we were coming from the movie The Great Race with Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Natalie Wood. And we had gone to see that movie, and in the movie, Natalie Wood sang a song, and we were walking back to the car, and Lois said, you know, I really like that song in there, and I said, okay, great, then that'll be our song. The song was called The Sweetheart Tree, and I think at that point I said, this is the one for me. I think to be honest and to always be honest, and because if you're not, if you tell a lie about something, you can get into really a situation. And if you're honest and treat people properly, then you'll get it back. They'll treat you that way too. I think always be honest. Treat people the way you would like to be treated, because you can make friends. You make a lot of friends that way, and it'll just make your life better. People will treat you better if you treat them better.
When was a moment that you felt discouraged or maybe faced adversity and had to overcome it?
Well, one time when I was working, I had to get up and give a presentation, and it was a budget thing, and the accountants had showed we had gone way over budget on a project. It was a big project, multi-million-dollar project at work, and I wasn't totally in charge of it, but there was a group of us, and they asked me to give the presentation. When I did, the plant manager just about threw me out of the room. He was very upset. He said somebody ought to be fired about this, and I was standing up in front of the large group of all the management, and I said, I guess there's no use of going any farther then, and I walked back and sat down. And what was kind of funny is I was leaving the next day on vacation. So we went to vacation in Myrtle Beach for 2 weeks, and I expected to be fired when I got back to work. So it wasn't a real fun vacation, but I never told anybody in the family. But when I got back, I had to go up to the office area where the plant manager was, the one who had said that. And so I went up, but I tried to get in and out without seeing him, and then he caught me in the hall, and he called me over and took me in a room. And I thought, hey, here we go. But he said, I want to apologize for the way I talked to you. I know that you were not the cause of this budget overrun. I just was so upset about it. And so he said, I want to apologize to you for the way I acted. He said, I killed the messenger instead of trying to resolve what the problem was. And so I didn't get fired. I felt good. I think to give 100% of work, when you have a job to do, give 100%, always. Don't try to get by with something less. Give 100% work, and that'll pay off for you. And I think I tried to follow that, and I think it did pay off for me. I would say to never forget that you're a religious person, that don't forget to say your prayers at night and in the morning, and just be a good person, and you'll find your way to heaven. Oh my God, what did I do? To be honest, I was a little scared. I didn't know how to be a father, and I didn't know if I could be a good father or not. Now, my brother had had 2 children, and I was around them as an uncle, but I was scared. Turned out to be a very easy thing to do, and no problem, but it did scare me.
Okay.
Pure happiness. Can I tell you a little story about that?
Please.
I knew I was going to be a grandfather, but I didn't know when. I was down in Atlanta, Georgia, another guy and I had gone down to a conference, and we were hosted by a company there that we did business with, and it was at a real nice country club, and it happened to be St. Patrick's Day, and there weren't very many people staying there. There was he and I, and there was another salesman had a couple of other people there, and we had a big dinner and all that kind of stuff, and then they took us down to a bar and had the TV on because it was basketball tournaments were on, and so there was a bartender there just for the 6 of us, and so we had a little bit too much to drink, and the next morning we had to go out on a tour of this factory, and I wasn't feeling the best, but I got through it and made it. And we were heading home that evening, but I called that afternoon my secretary, and she said, I've been trying to get a hold of you. The place we had stayed at, they didn't have any phones or anything. They didn't want us to do anything but relax. Said, you're a grandfather. Your daughter just had a boy and yesterday, and you missed the whole thing and so forth because you were clear down in Atlanta. So I'll let you guess who that boy was.
Okay, now.
I would say just keep on going, keep looking around, try different things till you find something that you really like, but don't give up. Main thing is don't give up. Be good people. Keep your religion. Don't give up, because the real goal is to make it to heaven, and heaven is eternity, and that's a long time. So you don't want to miss out on that, and be honest, and as my dad told me, give 100%. When somebody asks you to do something, do it, and do it right. I was going to college at OU. I'd gone for 3 years, but because of going to the branches stuff, I was a little behind, so I had like 2.5 years in. And I was running short of money. So I said to Mom and Dad, I've got to get a job. Well, my brother was out of the service and he was living in Columbus. So I said, I'm going to go up to Columbus, see if I can find a job so I can make some money. And my mom said, go to that nice Western Electric place. It was a plant there on Broad Street, and it was fairly new, and it was really a nice looking place. So I went there, and I got a job as a mechanical draftsman in the plant factory engineering department. And so I went to work there, and in the department I was in, we made changes for everything in the factory. Whatever, if a new machine was coming in or a new office was being moved, we had to fix the drawings, and the engineers would tell us what they wanted to do, and then the draftsman would draw it up. Well, all the drawings at that time, we didn't have computers yet, so everything was on paper. And Lois was head of the central files, they called it. And so if I was making a change in a drawing, I would have to go over there, and there was a counter, and I'd fill out a paper saying I need this particular layout or drawing, and I'd give it to her, and there were 2 other girls that worked there, and she would go and get it and bring it up to me. And that's where I first met her, right there. And it wasn't too long after I'd started there, one of the guys in my department that I worked with, his wife worked with Lois in the Central Files. So one day he came to me and he said, "Hey, I'm taking my wife out to lunch today, and Lois is going to go along with my wife. Why don't you go with us?" I think they were trying to set us up. And I said, okay, because I kind of liked her. And so we went out to lunch and we had a really good time. And I was going to be real cool, so when it was all done, I said, "Here, Lois, let me have your bill. Let me buy your lunch." So I took her check. Now this is before I had any credit cards or anything. So I took her check and my check, and I got my wallet out and checked. I didn't have enough money to pay for both of them. So I had to give the check back to her. And I did. I was embarrassed to death, but she laughed about it and said, "Oh, that's no big deal. That's fine." We laughed. So we laughed, and I thought, boy, I'll never hear from her again. But surprisingly, a day or two later, she called me at work over in the office, and she said, "Hey, Dick," she said, "I brought in some homemade vegetable soup today, and I brought enough for two. Would you like to come over and have lunch with me in the Central Files?" So I went over and had lunch with her, and we started dating after that. She was actually dating an older guy with a fancy sports car, and but we went out 2 or 3 times, and I think she finally broke up with that other guy, and the rest is history, as they say. All because I didn't have enough money in my wallet. Maybe. Well, I don't know. I don't know it all, and the new world is, with technology and everything has changed so much. But I would go back to the same old thing: is always be honest with people, treat people the way you'd like to treat them, and work when you have a job. Work hard at it and do your best. And I think no matter what you're doing, those things will get you through. Well, to my family, I would like to say there's a movie called A Wonderful Life, and I have had a wonderful life. Primarily, my parents raised me, the way I was raised, the place I was raised, the time I was raised, the wife that I had who made my life wonderful, the 3 daughters that I had, every one of them are special to me, and all of the grandchildren have made my life just absolutely wonderful. And that's why if I had a movie, I'd have to call it A Wonderful Life also.
Belongs to everyone. The best
there, Lois. How are you?
in life are free.
Miss you very much.
The stars belong to everyone. They gleam there for you and me. The
You have anything else?
flowers in spring.
No, I enjoyed this. I hope people who get to see it will enjoy it. And I would like to say that I miss my wife, Lois, very much. I love all my 3 daughters very much. And I love all my grandchildren very, very, very much. And again, that's why I've had such a wonderful life.